What if the person you try to break was the one who ended up saving you? In the heart of New York City, a billionaire named Ryan Monroe had everything money could buy, except mercy. Confined to a wheelchair and consumed by bitterness, he made life a living hell for every maid who dared to work in his mansion. 3 quit in tears within days. But when a young woman named Lucy Navarro walked through his door, poor, desperate, and armed with nothing but quiet strength, something extraordinary began to unfold. He wanted to test her limits. She would end up testing his heart. Stay until the end. Because what happens inside that mansion will remind you that sometimes the most broken people are the ones who teach us how to live again. 3 maids in 3 days, all fired, all leaving in tears through the tall iron gates of the Monroe Mansion, the most luxurious estate in New York's Upper East Side. Inside those marble walls lived Ryan Monroe, a 41-year-old billionaire who had once been charming, admired, and envied, until fate put him in a wheelchair. Since then, he had built his kingdom on silence, control, and cruelty. He said he hated incompetence. In truth, he hated humanity, especially his own. And on that gray morning, another victim was about to walk through his door. Before we move on, please share with us which country you're listening from, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. At exactly 7 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Celia Dawson, the weary head housekeeper with silver hair pulled into a bun, sighed before opening. On the doorstep stood a young woman, dark-skinned, slender, with eyes full of quiet fear and a worn-out handbag clutched to her chest. "Are you the new one?" Celia asked flatly. "Yes, ma'am. Lucy Navarro. I'm here for the maid position." The housekeeper scanned her from head to toe. "Another lamb to the slaughter. Come in. Just one piece of advice. Don't take anything he says to heart. He's not a good man. And if you last until lunch, you'll already have broken the record." Lucy swallowed hard. She needed this job. Her mother, Rosa Navarro, was sick back home in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and the rent was long overdue. Giving up wasn't an option. The mansion was magnificent. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, paintings that looked like museum pieces, but it felt heavy, haunted by silence. "He's in the sitting room," Celia whispered. "He'll see you now." Lucy followed the corridor, palms sweating. Inside, a man sat with his back to her, gazing out the window in a sleek electric wheelchair. Broad-shouldered, dark-haired, expensive clothes, and an air of ice around him. "Good morning, Mr. Monroe," she began softly. You're late," he cut in. His voice was cold enough to frost glass. She blinked. "Sir, it's 7:05. I arrived at 7. 7 means 7, he snapped. Not a minute later. Already off to a bad start. He turned 41 years old, handsome once, now hollowed by bitterness. His black eyes didn't look at people. They pierced through them. "What's your name?" "Lucy Navarro, sir." He repeated it mockingly. "Different name. Odd. Anyway, your duties are simple. Clean the house, serve meals, stay invisible, and most importantly, do not annoy me. Think you can manage that?" "Yes, sir." "I doubt it." He picked up a sheet of paper. "Start with the library. Reorganize all 462 books alphabetically by author. Dust every single one. You have until 1 o'clock. Lucy felt her stomach tighten. That was impossible. "Sir, if I may, you may either start now or leave now," he interrupted, turning his chair away, her fists clenched. She couldn't leave. "I'll start immediately, Mr. Monroe." He smiled faintly, the cruel smile of a man who enjoyed watching others break. For hours she worked like someone possessed, up and down the ladder, dusting, wiping, sorting, barely breathing. Her hands burned, her legs trembled, but she refused to stop. T 12:40 p.m. Ryan entered the library. She was still there, sweat clinging to her neck, determined to finish. 20 minutes left, he announced. "I know, sir," she replied. Without looking up, he watched her, waiting for collapse. But none came to exactly 1 o'clock. Lucy descended the ladder. "Finished, sir." He looked around. Not a speck of dust. "Fine," he said coldly. Now wash all the crystalware by hand. I want them to sparkle." He left without another word. Lucy leaned against the shelf, dizzy with exhaustion, but she didn't give up. The rest of the day was pure torment. Impossible orders, endless criticism. From the corner, another maid, Patricia Reed, smirked to the chauffeur, George Adams. "She won't last the night." None of them do. By 7, Celia informed Ryan, "Sir, she's still working. Hasn't stopped once." "Then tell her to leave," he muttered. "Why do you treat them like this?" the older woman asked quietly. "Because I can. Because they all quit, just like Marianne did." Celia sighed and left. On her way out, she saw Lucy limping toward the gate, exhausted but not broken. "You're either brave or insane, girl," Celia murmured. "Just desperate, ma'am," Lucy whispered. "No one lasts more than 3 days here." "Then I'll last 4. Lucy smiled faintly. Upstairs, Ryan sat alone in his office, watching her disappear into the night, disturbed by something unfamiliar. Pride? Respect? No. He wouldn't allow that. Tomorrow, he'd crush her completely. Dawn. Lucy's body screamed with pain. Her hands blistered, but she rose anyway. She kissed her sleeping mother's forehead. "I'll make it work, Mom. I promise." At 6:50, she rang the mansion's bell again. Celia's eyes widened. "You came back." "Yes, ma'am." "God help you, girl." Inside, Ryan was already awake. He rarely slept. The phantom pains in his legs and the ghosts of memories kept him up. "Send her in," he said. When Lucy entered the dining hall, he didn't even look at her. "Today, you'll clean all the windows, inside and out. 63 of them. Then wash every bed sheet by hand. The washing machine is broken." "Broken, sir?" she asked carefully. "Is that a problem?" he challenged. "None, sir." "Good. And Lucy?" "Yes. If I see one streak or one drop of water left behind, you're fired." She nodded and got to work. Hours passed under the scorching sun. She climbed white-polished. Sweat soaked her uniform, but she pressed on. When Ryan rolled by and found her still working, he said sharply, "Too slow. At this pace, you'll never finish." "I'm doing my best, sir." "Your best is pathetic." He touched a freshly cleaned pane. "There, see that? A smudge. Do it." Again. She looked. There was no smudge. But she said nothing. She cleaned again. He stared at her, waiting for anger, tears, rebellion. None came. "Don't you have pride?" he asked suddenly. "I do," she said quietly. "Pride in working and helping my family. You can insult me all you want, sir, but you can't take that from me." For the first time in years, Ryan was speechless. Something cracked inside him. He turned and left without a word. Later that afternoon, he found her in the abandoned ballroom, a vast, dust-covered room with mirrors, a grand piano, and old photographs on the walls. She was wiping one of the frames when his voice cut the air. "Curiosity is a sin." She spun around, startled. "Forgive me, sir. I was just looking at the man I used to be," he said bitterly, wheeling forward. "Before the accident, before everything turned to ashes." He stared at a photo of himself standing tall beside a beautiful blonde woman, Marianne Turner, his former fiancée. She said she didn't sign up to be a nurse. 3 months after the crash, she left. Took my gifts, my pride, my future. Since then, this chair is all I have, and making others suffer is the only thing that reminds me I'm still alive. Lucy stood in silence, eyes soft but steady. "Then you're letting her win," she said. He looked at her, stunned. "What?" "She broke you once. And every day you stay bitter. You let her keep winning. This chair isn't your prison, sir. Your anger is." "How dare you?" "I know pain," she interrupted. "My father died when I was 15. I dropped out of school to feed my mother. Pain doesn't give us the right to hurt others. It gives us the chance to grow stronger." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Get out," he whispered. "Sir, out," he shouted. She left trembling, certain she'd be fired. But that night, as Ryan sat alone in the dark, her words echoed like music in an empty room. The next morning, Lucy showed up again, ready to face her dismissal. But instead of anger, she found quiet. No commands, no yelling. Until 10 o'clock, when a sleek black car pulled up to the mansion. From it stepped a woman in her 60s, tall, elegant, poised. Elizabeth Monroe, Ryan's mother. Lucy greeted her shyly. "You're new here?" Elizabeth asked kindly. "Yes, ma'am." 3 days. Elizabeth chuckled sadly. 3 days? You must be made of steel. Moments later, Ryan appeared, visibly tense. "Mom, you didn't tell me you were coming. Because you'd have found an excuse. We need to talk. I'm busy. You're my son. You'll make time." In the library behind closed doors, voices rose. "You can't live like this," Elizabeth said. "You're punishing everyone for what happened. I'm already ruined." "No, you're hiding behind that chair. This cruelty isn't strength. It's cowardice." Down the hall, Lucy kept dusting, but couldn't help overhearing Elizabeth's voice trembled. "You're not the boy I raised. He's still in there somewhere, and I want him back." When she came out, her eyes were wet. She stopped near Lucy. "How many times has my son humiliated you, dear?" Lucy hesitated. Ryan stood in the doorway. "Be honest," Elizabeth said softly. "He won't fire you." "Many times, ma'am," Lucy whispered. "But I need the job. My mother is sick." Elizabeth turned to Ryan. "Do you see? This young woman faces real pain and still keeps her dignity. She's stronger than you are." Ryan looked away. Then, to everyone's surprise, Elizabeth smiled. "Lucy, do you dance?" "Dance?" Lucy blinked. "A little, ma'am. In church, when I was younger." "Good. Then you'll dance at our charity gala in 2 weeks." "What?" "Ma'am, I can't. You can and you will. We're reviving the annual event for St. Mary's Children's Hospital, and you'll be our performer." Ryan's face turned pale. "Mother, no. That's absurd." "It's decided," Elizabeth said firmly. "If you try to fire her, I'll cut your funding and your title at the foundation." And just like that, the woman left, leaving both employer and maid in stunned silence. That night, while everyone slept, Lucy sneaked into the dusty ballroom, turned on a dim lamp, and began to move. And oh, teacher, no mirrors, just her body remembering joy. Every stumble was a lesson, every fall followed by a rise. Ryan saw the light under the door one night and peeked in. There she was, barefoot, twirling, failing, trying again. He felt something he hadn't felt in years. Envy. She still had life inside her. The next evening, when she twisted her knee and fell, he entered quietly. "Stop moving," he said. "Sir, I'm fine." "No, you're not." He placed an ice pack on her knee, gently. "I've spent 2 years with doctors. I know injuries when I see them." She froze, shocked by his kindness. "Why do you do this?" he asked softly. "Because I have to prove something," she whispered. "To whom?" "To myself. That I can be more than a maid, even if it's just for one night." He looked at her for a long time. "You dance too stiffly," he murmured. "It's not about strength. It's about flow." "You seem to know a lot about dancing," she said carefully. "I used to," he admitted. "At every party with Marianne. It was one of the few things that made me feel alive." They stayed in silence a while. Then Lucy asked, "Will you help me pick the music?" He hesitated. "Fine. Come tomorrow night." That was the first time in 2 years that Ryan Monroe looked forward to tomorrow. 2 weeks later, the mansion glowed again. Chandeliers lit, flowers everywhere, guests arriving in black cars and silk gowns. Ryan wore a sharp suit, his mother's doing. He looked composed, but his heart raced. Elizabeth greeted politicians, entrepreneurs, and socialites. At 9 o'clock, she stepped on stage. "Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we raise funds for children in need, and we celebrate hope. Please welcome someone very special, Lucy Navarro." Ryan's stomach tightened. He scanned the stage. Silence. No music. Technicians panicked. The speakers were dead. Patricia's sabotage. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Elizabeth frowned, and then Lucy appeared, barefoot, wearing a deep red dress that flowed like liquid fire. She smiled faintly, then began to clap point 3 beats. Another 3, the rhythm echoed through the hall point one by one. The guests joined her. Hands clapping, feet tapping, the entire ballroom alive with pulse. And she danced to nothing but human rhythm, fluid, fierce, free. When the music system finally came back, she didn't stop. She merged rhythm and melody like a storm. Every movement told a story of survival. Every turn defied gravity and pity alike. The hall was silent, not out of boredom, but awe. And then she looked directly at Ryan. She stepped off the stage, walked straight toward his wheelchair, and extended her hand. "Dance with me." He froze. "I can't." "You can. In your way." For a long moment, the world held its breath. Then he took her hand. Lucy began to move around him, gently guiding his arm, his shoulders, his gaze that it wasn't pity. It was partnership. The music softened, time slowed, and for the first time in years, Ryan Monroe smiled. Then wept. When the music ended, there was silence, and then an eruption. Applause, cheers, tears. Everyone was on their feet. Elizabeth covered her face, sobbing. Her son was back. The next morning, Lucy came to work as usual, expecting dismissal. Instead, Ryan was waiting in the kitchen. "Sit down," he said gently. She did. "I owe you an apology for every word, every cruelty. You didn't deserve any of it. And last night, you saved me." He handed her an envelope. "What is this?" "A scholarship. I want you to study dance properly. Full-time. I'll sponsor you and others like you through a new program at the Monroe Foundation." She stared, speechless. "Why would you do this for me?" "Because you reminded me that life can still move, even if I can't. But maybe I can try." Months passed. Lucy began professional training and flourished. Ryan returned to physiotherapy. The progress was brutal, slow, and painful. Point one night, he wanted to quit. "It's pointless," he told his mother. "All this pain for 2 steps." That's when Lucy walked in. "No," she said firmly. "You don't quit now. You made me believe I could dance again. Now it's my turn to make you believe you can stand." And so she came every morning, cheering him through each trembling movement, celebrating every inch of progress. 6 months later, the Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts glowed beneath its chandeliers, every velvet seat filled. The audience buzzed with anticipation. Critics, artists, philanthropists, and strangers who had come after hearing whispers of a miraculous young dancer from Scranton whose story had already begun to inspire the nation. Behind the curtain, Lucy Navarro stood in silence, dressed in a flowing white costume. Her heart pounded, but her hands were steady. In that moment, she wasn't just a maid who had dared to dream. She was an artist ready to speak without words. The music began, slow, melancholy piano chords that built like a heartbeat. She stepped onto the stage. Every movement told a chapter of her life. The rhythm of scrubbing floors, the exhaustion of long days, the weight of her mother's illness, the humiliation she once endured in silence. Then the melody shifted, softer, freer, the dance transforming into one of hope and resilience. Her arms opened like wings, her feet glided across the floor, her body no longer confined by struggle, but powered by tea. In the front row, Elizabeth and Rosa watched with tears streaming down their faces. But it was Ryan Monroe who was the most changed of all. He sat motionless at first, his hands gripping the handles of his wheelchair. Then, slowly, he placed his canes on the ground beside him. With visible effort, his body trembling, he pushed himself upward, one hand on each cane, and stood. The audience gasped. For the first time in over 2 years, he stood tall, eyes fixed on the stage, tears glistening as he watched Lucy spin and leap in a flurry of light and emotion. Every step she took was a reflection of his own inner fight, every movement a symbol of rebirth. When the final note faded, she bowed low, her chest heaving, her eyes glistening with gratitude. The theater was silent for a heartbeat, and then it erupted. Thunderous applause filled the hall, rising like a wave that refused to end. And in the middle of it all, Ryan Monroe, standing unaided for 45 trembling seconds, clapped harder than anyone. Not for the dancer on stage, but for the woman who had taught him to live again. Months later, a new sign was unveiled. Lucy Navarro Institute for Dance and Art, supported by the Monroe Family Foundation, a school in Scranton, Pennsylvania, for underprivileged youth, offering them the chance Lucy never had. Outside, Ryan sat in his chair, 2 canes at his side, able to take a dozen steps now, but more importantly, able to live again. "You did it," she told him softly. "No," he smiled. "We did. You taught me that courage isn't about walking, it's about rising again every single time we fall." They watched children running into the building, laughing, full of dreams. The man who once broke spirits had learned how to rebuild them, and the girl who came to clean floors had ended up cleaning a man's soul. Because sometimes one dance, one act of courage, can change 2 lives forever. And as the music faded, as Ryan stood on his trembling legs watching Lucy take her final bow, one truth became undeniable. Sometimes a single act of courage can bring 2 souls back to life. But tell us, have you ever met someone who changed your life in a way you never expected? Please share your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. We'd love to know. Also, thank you for tuning in to Hopeful Voices, and please don't forget to subscribe to our channel.